apologising.
You're not going to apologise?
No, why should I?
Well, then go.
He had the voice, the swagger, and the crowd on his side. Yet Simon Cowell made a decision so shocking that it went down as one of the most infamous moments in X Factor history. Welcome to Hollywood Star News. Today, we're diving into the story of the contestant who went from a promising performance to being almost erased from the show entirely. The cameras captured the mic drop, the audience heard the outburst, but the truth of what happened next was carefully kept under wraps until now. This story doesn't start with drama. It begins with the 6-chair challenge, one of the most ruthless rounds in X Factor history. Unlike the hopeful warmth of auditions or the buzz of live shows, this stage was designed for maximum pressure. Contestants had one shot to win over the judges, one chance to grab a chair, and even then, that seat could be ripped away in seconds. In 2015, inside Wembley Arena, the stakes felt higher than ever. Over 5,000 fans filled the seats, buzzing with anticipation, while Simon Cowell, Rita Ora, Cheryl Fernandez-Versini, and Nick Grimshaw sat poised for long hours of performances. No one, not even Simon, could have predicted how explosive the night would become. Among the lineup was a 21-year-old named Mason Noyes. At that point, Mason wasn't widely known. His first audition had been reduced to just 47 seconds of airtime, barely enough for anyone at home to remember him. But those who saw him live knew he had presence. He carried himself with confidence, blending R&B and pop effortlessly. He had the sharp look, the charisma, and the stage control that made him stand out. But in the world of the X Factor, standing out could be both a blessing and a curse. That night, Mason stepped onto the stage, greeted by polite applause. He nodded at the judges, took the mic, and launched into a slick, upbeat medley inspired by artists like Justin Timberlake and The Weeknd. His falsetto was on point, his runs were smooth, his moves confident but not overdone. By all accounts, it was one of the strongest performances of the night. The crowd clapped, some even cheered, and then silence. Instead of quick feedback, the judges paused, their hesitation stretching uncomfortably. Mason sensed it. He wasn't just here to sing, he had something to say. You see, Mason hadn't forgotten the sting of being cut down to 47 seconds while other contestants enjoyed long, polished edits. To him, that wasn't an oversight, it was an insult. And in that silence, he made a choice. He lifted the mic and said, "I've got something to say." At first, the audience murmured. Then he grew louder. "Take out your phones, film this. They're not going to throw out 5,000 people." The arena froze. Was this part of the act? Even the judges looked stunned. Simon leaned forward, sharp. "Mason, just 1 second. What gives you the right to say that?" But Mason didn't back down. He called out how some contestants got 10 minutes of airtime while he was given less than 1. The crowd reacted. Some clapped, others sat stunned. But Simon's patience snapped. "Mason, you are 5 seconds away from being thrown off this stage," he warned. It wasn't for show. It was a line in the sand. Mason had a choice: apologize and move on, or stand his ground. He refused to apologize. Simon's face hardened. "Well then, go." And Mason went. He dropped the mic, turned, and walked off stage without another word. The arena fell silent. Just like that, one of the most promising acts of the night was gone, not because of talent, but because of defiance. Backstage, reactions were mixed. Some crew admired his nerve, others called it career suicide. Online, clips of the standoff spread instantly. Fans debated, was Mason arrogant, or had Simon gone too far? Headlines labeled it a meltdown. Some even called it sabotage. Behind the scenes, Simon was livid. He reportedly called the moment disgusting and swore he would never watch Mason again. In Simon's eyes, Mason hadn't just sung, he had challenged the very control the show depended on, and for that, there could be no forgiveness. It looked like Mason's journey was over, but fate had other plans. Days later, another contestant, Tom Blespy, dropped out of the competition, leaving an empty spot. Suddenly, producers needed a replacement. Despite Simon's fury, Mason's name came up again. Nick Grimshaw, his mentor, pushed for his return, arguing his confidence had been mistaken for arrogance. After tense discussion, the decision was made. Mason Noyes was back. His return, however, wasn't glamorous. There was no apology, no redemption arc, no handshake with Simon. He simply reappeared at judges' houses, quietly taking Tom's place. To casual viewers, it was confusing. To those who remembered the headlines, it raised eyebrows. Simon, meanwhile, stayed cold and distant, barely acknowledging Mason at all. The tension lingered even if the cameras avoided it. Mason performed well, focused, polished, careful. Gone were the fiery speeches, the challenges, the calls to the crowd. This time, he gave the judges no reason to doubt his ability. But the shadow of that confrontation never disappeared. In the end, Mason didn't win the X Factor. He didn't even reach the finals, finishing 7th overall. But his story outlived many of the contestants who placed above him. What people remembered wasn't a particular note he sang or the songs he chose. It was the mic drop, the defiance, the silence that followed. Simon reportedly never watched Mason's footage again, and fans still debate. Did Simon overreact, or did Mason simply stand up for himself in a system stacked against him? After the show, Mason shifted away from chasing fame. He focused on personal growth, later revealing he nearly died from sepsis in 2019, a turning point that changed his outlook on life. Today, he speaks more about wellness and transformation than record deals, carving a path far different from what the X Factor once promised him. Simon never revisited the incident. The show moved on with new contestants and new scandals, but Mason's name still comes up whenever fans discuss the most controversial moments in X Factor history. That mic drop still echoes nearly a decade later, and the title remains, "Why did Simon Cowell refuse to watch this contestant again?" The answer is simple. It wasn't about the music. It wasn't about the medley. It was about control. Mason broke the unspoken rules. He disrupted the system, and for that, he was nearly erased. But here's the twist. He wasn't erased. His story survived, and people still talk about it today. So what do you think? Was Simon right to draw the line, or did Mason stand up for himself in a system stacked against him? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story. Only here on Hollywood Star News.
Girl, you know how